Hello everyone and welcome to another English video lesson intended for 4th grade secondary school students. This is part 2 of the lesson on Louis Braille. My name is Anita and I will be your teacher today. U današnjoj lekciji koristit ćete se vještinama kritičkog mišljenja pri odgovaranju na pitanja te ćete pisati sažetak teksta o Louis Braille. For this lesson, you'll need just regular stuff, your notebook or a piece of paper, a pen or a pencil, and your smartphone or laptop or personal computer connected to the internet. Let's remind ourselves of the previous lesson on Louis Braille. So we watched a video about the father of the literacy for the blind. I hope you've expanded your vocabulary because we dealt with some new and perhaps challenging words. Today's lesson will start with some questions. The answers to these questions are not explicitly written in the text. This kind of questions sharpen your mind and strengthen your logical thinking skills. You can have a look at the questions if you like, or you can copy them into your notebook. There are 7 questions. I'll read them for you and then you can pause the video and take time to think about them. So the first question is, in the Croatian language, the alphabet for the blind is called Brajica, not Brajlica. Why? The second question is, why was the letter W not included in Braille's original alphabet? The third question is, when is World Braille Day celebrated? The fourth question is, before a book in Braille is published, it is proofread by both a blind and a sighted reader so that any errors can be corrected or changes made before it is published. Can you guess what the blind reader does and what the sighted reader does? The fifth question is, why did Charles Barbier call his writing system sonography? The sixth question is, can you explain the contradiction? As Braille use spreads across everyday objects, the number of people using the system has actually been in long-term decline. How come? And the seventh question, you have to look at the alphabet and decipher the way he arranged the dots for letters I through J. How did he arrange the dots for letters K through T? And for the remaining letters. Pause the video and think about the questions. Let's check if you were right. So the first question was, in the Croatian language, the alphabet for the blind is called Brajica, not Brajlica. Why? Here is the answer. Louis Braille was a Frenchman, so in the French language, his second name is pronounced
Braille.
And in the English language, his second name is pronounced
Braille.
Therefore, in the Croatian language, we are talking about Brajica, not Brajlica. Let's go on to the second question. Why wasn't the letter W included in Braille's original alphabet? The answer is W wasn't included in Braille's original alphabet because it covered the basic letters of the French alphabet, and at the time the French alphabet didn't include W. The third question was, when is World Braille Day celebrated? This one was easy. It is an international day celebrated on January the 4th, Braille's birthday. Do you celebrate it at your school? If not, it would be a great idea to start marking it and celebrate diversity and inclusivity. So the fourth question is, before a book in Braille is published, it is proofread by both the blind and the sighted reader so that any errors can be corrected or changes made before it is published. Can you guess what the blind reader does and what the sighted reader does? Here is the answer. Before a book in Braille is published, both the blind reader and the sighted reader go through the book. The blind reader reads the book aloud and the sighted reader follows text in the printed version. The fifth question was, why did Charles Barbier call his writing system sonography? Because it was spoken on sounds. And the word sono, coming from Latin, means sound. In the sixth question, I asked you to explain the contradiction. As Braille use spreads across everyday objects, the number of people using the system has actually been in long-term decline. So, how come? The reason lies in the technological advancements we have been witnessing. Today there are screen readers for computers as well as smartphones that speak. Technology has spawned a generation of blind people who are tech-savvy. In the seventh question, you had to look at the alphabet and try to crack the code in which Braille arranged letters A through J. If you give it some thought, you'll realize he used the top 4 dots for letters A through J. For letters K to T, he added the bottom left-hand dot to the first combination of dots. And for the remaining letters, he added the bottom left-hand and right-hand dots. That was the last question. I hope you picked up new vocabulary in our previous lesson. Acquiring vocabulary sometimes takes a lot more effort than we would like to believe, but we'll do a bit of recycling today too. So here is your next task. Please match the words you see on the left-hand side with their synonyms on the right-hand side. If you're doing it online, use the link provided in the top right corner of the slide. Copy the link and paste it into the browser address bar. Are you ready? Let's start. So, reluctant is the same thing as hesitant. Subsequent, following. Ramshackle, dilapidated. Ravaged, devastated. Precocious, intelligent. Hinder, prevent. Painstakingly, tirelessly. Inquisitive, curious. Deteriorate, worsen. And renowned, reputable. I'm sure you got them all. Now that we have revised some of the vocabulary from our previous lesson, you're ready for your next task. And your next task is really easy. It's something you have already learned about a lot, but it's always good to revise grammar. It increases your confidence and improves your language level. What you are supposed to do is to take a closer look at this sentence and underline examples of a simple predicate, or to put it simply, verb phrases. How many are there in this sentence? To make the dots, he used the same kind of tool that had caused him to go blind 12 years earlier. There were 2. The first one he used and the second one had caused. Now identify the tenses, please. The first verb is in past simple and the second verb is in past perfect. Now compare these two events. When did they take place? Both events took place in the past. What is the difference then between these two? Did they take place simultaneously? The answer is no. One action took place in the past. Look at the timeline. We are here, so one action took place in the past. But the other action had taken place even earlier, and because of that, past perfect is sometimes called past of the past. Okay. Let's take just a brief look at the form. How is it formed? We use auxiliary have in the past and the past participle. We use the same form of the auxiliary had every time, regardless the subject. For the negative, just add not, and to make questions, we put had before the subject. Apart from expressing one event that was completed before another past event, past perfect tense can be used to talk about past events that did not happen. Take a look at this sentence. If Braille hadn't gone to the Royal Institution for Blind Youth, he wouldn't have invented his alphabet. This is the condition, and this is the possible result. Did this situation happen? No, it didn't. If Braille hadn't gone, but he did go to the Royal Institution for Blind People, he wouldn't have invented it. But he did invent it. So do you know what this way of expressing unreal situations is called? It's third conditional. And the last use of past perfect we are going to talk about today is this one. Read the sentence. The president of the World Braille Foundation said, "Unfortunately, the French education establishment for the blind didn't understand the advantages of his system." Now read the second sentence. The president of the World Braille Foundation cited that, unfortunately, the French education establishment for the blind hadn't understood the advantages of his system. What did we just do? So, in the second sentence, we expressed the content of the president's statement without quoting him explicitly. In grammar, it's called reported speech. Now it's time to practice. Complete the following conversation with the appropriate form of the verbs in brackets. Pause the video for a minute, do the task, it won't take long. And here is the answer key. So Anne and Brad are talking about a book. Anne says, "I recently read a book a friend of mine had recommended a long time ago on Louis Braille's life. What an amazing story." And Brad says, "What a coincidence. Jane told me they had learned about him at school the other day. They were impressed. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the class. If I hadn't been ill, I would have enjoyed the lesson, I'm sure. Would you lend me the book?" "Sure, why not? Just remind me to take it to school." Before we move on to our next and final task, please read these sentences and match them with their uses. I recently read a book a friend of mine had recommended. Jane told me they had learned about him at school the other day. And if I hadn't been ill, I would have enjoyed the lesson, I'm sure. A is to backshift past simple or present perfect in reported speech. B, to express unreality in the past. And C, to express an action finished before another past action. So the pairs are 1 and C. I recently read a book a friend of mine had recommended. So it is used to express an action finished before another past action. 2 and A. So it's used to backshift past simple or present perfect in reported speech. And if I hadn't been ill, I would have enjoyed the lesson, I'm sure. Its pair is B, to express unreality in the past. It's third conditional. And this is your last task for today. What you are supposed to do is to write a short summary of the text about Louis Braille we listened to in our previous lesson. Write a paragraph of 100 to 120 words. Your summary must include at least 4 words from the previous vocabulary tasks, lesson 1 and 2, and make sure you include examples of past perfect. Remember, a good summary may use keywords from the original text but should not contain whole phrases or sentences from the original. This is the way I started my summary. Louis Braille, the father of literacy for the blind, was born in France in 1809. At 3, he suffered a terrible injury, which 2 years later left him completely blind in both eyes. However, it didn't hinder this precocious boy from, and I included an example of past perfect too. Here it is. Charles Barbier, a former military officer, visited Braille school and talked about a code he had invented upon Napoleon's demand. To make sure you've done all the things right, I've created this checklist. I bet 20 minutes from now it will look like this. We've come to the end of today's lesson. I hope you learned something new today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.